Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing today? You can tell by my face that I am not having a great day. If you didn't catch it yesterday, my stats and projections guy quit on me at 9:30 at night and took his projection system that I helped them develop with him and refused to give me anything even to get me through. We're trying to expand the site, and he was unprofessional, and it happens. And what are you going to do? You move on, right? That's what we all do. So I basically worked from like 11 until 4 in the morning putting together the back end and then the beginnings of the math for the projections. I had a block because I don't know how to use Excel. So like if anybody who watches this is like an Excel master, like you could teach Excel at a college level, hit me up, bathrobeDFS@gmail.com. And I have a couple of questions. I don't need you to do anything, but there's a couple things that I don't know how to do that I know are possible. So I have the projections, I know what I need to do with them. I spent an hour and a half thinking about how to get the math to work with limited knowledge. So that puts me at 5:30 a.m. And then I had my doctor's appointment today at 9:30 a.m. So I basically got no sleep. Wife and everybody is up at 8. So yeah, no sleep at all. I'm in a really bad state today. But my doctor was going through old tests and found something. And there's hope. I have so much more hope today than I've had in months. There's a chance that they'll be able to manage the pain and even reverse it. They'll stop the slide to, not being able to use my leg. So it's all in all, bad day, great news. So I'm feeling great today, guys. So let's win some money, all right? Let's look at all this. We're going to start off, so far, the only game as far as I've seen, unless it came out in the last 3 minutes, the only game so far on the morning slate or the main slate, because this is where most of the games are today, starting is the Rockies. So let's take a look at what we are looking at today and what we can use, because it's going to be really interesting. There's a couple of really, really interesting spots that maybe other people don't want to take a chance on for good reason, but I think it'll be fun for like a 7-game GPP. So let's get into it. First game is the Giants at the Mets. We got Sean Anderson going against Zach Wheeler. Sean Anderson is not a good pitcher, and he has not been pitching well lately. Zach Wheeler is a good pitcher, and he has been pitching well lately. The Mets offense has been relatively hot. Granted, not everybody, Lagares and Nito, you pretty much can't play. Well, Nito you can play Nito you can play because he's shown you the upside. But I would have preferred Nito to be in the 2,000s than 3,000. I'd rather just pay up at catcher at that point, even if you are stacking the Mets. So, Sean Anderson, like I said, Sean Anderson's bad. Rosario is hot. If you watched the game yesterday, you saw the home run he hit was to opposite center field. So he is a righty, so he hit the ball to right center. And that is a good omen that his swing is rounding into form like it did at the end of last year, because when he was hitting 300 for the last 2.5 months of the season and driving the ball, we were seeing him drive the ball a lot more to right center. So Ahmed Rosario leading off is a great play. Dom Smith, who's been hitting the ball really well, dual position eligibility. On FanDuel, 2,400 is way too cheap for him. He's a great play. Pete Alonso is a monster. I told you about him at the beginning of the season. I hope you've been listening to me. People don't think that because I'm a Mets fan I could be objective, but that's ridiculous. I don't think that they're the best team. I don't think they're going to win the division. I think they need a lot of help. But Pete Alonso is going to be Rookie of the Year, and he's going to hit 40 home runs, and he's going to break all the Mets rookie records, and he's going to do stuff that we haven't seen a rookie do in some time. So, Pete Alonso's a great play. Conforto's been up and down lately. He's been cold as of late, but I would call this a get-right spot against Sean Anderson, who throws as I've explained, a slider pitcher, if you're a righty, is a lot easier to hit as a lefty, right? And Conforto already has extreme normal splits. Sean Anderson throws a four-seam fastball 42% of the time and his slider 28% of the time. So that's like 70% of the time he's throwing a pitch to Conforto, give or take. Obviously, it's going to change based on the batter, but he's comfortable with those two pitches. That's why he throws them the most. So that is an advantage to Conforto. So I would call this a get-right spot for him. We saw him when he was hot over 5,000. He's under 5 at 4,700. So on a smaller slate, that's a pretty good discount. And then Frazier and Echeverria have been hitting really well lately. While I wouldn't say they're the best stack going today, no, still not the Chicago lineup. Colorado lineup. While I wouldn't say they're the best stack going today, I say that they're going to be under-owned for the game against Sean Anderson. There are some really, really seriously good hitters on the Mets. Don't let the failings of the starting rotation and the bullpen fool you. Don't let the fact that they strike out more than they should fool you. This is a potent Mets offense that has been putting up a lot of runs. They cannot hit well against really good pitching for the most part, but they have been mopping up the bad ones. So give me that. And then on the Mets side, like I said, Wheeler is a good pitcher, pitching well. Don't think on this slate for the one lineup I'm playing, given the other options that I see, that I'm going to pay up for him. I would rather spend that money on bats. But that being said, again, Wheeler has been in, is this today? What the hell's going on? Did I change it? Yeah, I did change it. Hold on one second, folks. I was doing my work last night and I changed one of my screens that has all my stats is on it. So yeah, Wheeler over the last couple weeks, 10.7 strikeouts per 9, 0.6 walks per 9 for a strikeout to walk ratio of 17, which is fantastic. 0.91 whip. He has the 4.4 ERA, but if you dig into the advanced stats, a 2.87 xFIP, 2.97 SIERA. And again, he's going against the second worst offense in baseball with the San Francisco Giants, who are now without Posey. On top of everything else. So, that's a huge downgrade for an already pathetic offense. Let's move on because I need to. Atlanta Braves at the Pittsburgh Pirates. We got Mike Foltynewicz going against Chris Archer. Excuse me. I will say Foltynewicz as many times as I can. That's one of the things, honestly, the main advantage to me doing the video over the article is that I get to say Foltynewicz instead of just typing Folty. I'm really like saying I would rather do a video every time Foltynewicz is pitching. So we got Foltynewicz taking on the Pirates. He has been in good form recently. When he came off the IL, he looked really, really bad. He couldn't find his stuff. He was walking people. He wasn't striking anybody out. But this is a Foltynewicz that's rounded into form recently. And is pitching, as well as Zach Wheeler, and will save you $2,000 on him against a really bad offense. Not as bad as the Giants, obviously. The Pirates aren't nearly as bad as the Giants. It's like leaps and bounds from everybody else to the Giants, and then leaps and bounds from the Giants to the Marlins. So Foltynewicz over the last couple weeks, 12.3 strikeouts per 9 with a 0 walks. 1.09 whip, and that's him getting unlucky. You can see that again, just like Zach Wheeler, 4.09 ERA, but you go to the advanced stats, 2.98 xFIP, 2.75 SIERA. So while I was avoiding Folty, Fultonavich when he first came up, when he was rounding into form, when he was getting his stuff back. It looks like he is back, and he is a very talented pitcher with very good stuff and a very dominant fastball. So, if he is pitching at top form, he is someone that is going to go under the radar a lot of times, especially now when people's first impression of him is him coming off the IL and doing poorly. Again, they automatically, or a large portion of people automatically have in their mind that any good pitching from him is a fluke because he's a bad pitcher, and they have that bias that gets stuck in their head, and they refuse to let recent facts change their perception, even if that is what the reality is. And like I said, Fulty's a great pitcher. The Pirates are not a good offense, except for Josh Bell, Mark Noel. Polanco's been cold as anything. I am not scared of Cole Tucker, or Jacob Stallings at the bottom of the lineup. So if you want a Wheeler type play today, save yourself $2,000 and go to Fulty. He's a fantastic, fantastic play. And I will also say, and I add these every once in a while, if you do sports betting, and I know that some of you do sports betting, every once in a while I will see something that really jumps out to me. If you, let's see if this is current, because that may not have been. Yeah, as of right now, the Vegas total for this game is 9.5, with the Braves projected to get 4.9 runs, and the Pirates projected to get 4.6 runs. If I was able to do any sort of sports betting in my state without going to a casino, which isn't allowed because money, and they buy people, but that'll change. The population is going to want all that stuff soon enough, and we're going to see it legalized throughout the country, DFS and sports betting alike. But again, if I had sports betting available, I would spend money today betting the under on the Pittsburgh Pirates getting 4.6 runs. I don't think they're going to get more than 3, so I think that the under would be a very safe bet there. I don't know if you could play it that way. I'm sure that there are some bookmakers that let you bet on the teams over under instead of the entire game, because that gets a little trickier if you add the Braves in, because I do think the Braves are going to wallop the shit out of Chris Archer. So I think they'll be over their 5 total. So I think both of those are pretty stone locks today. While Vegas is normally close enough that I don't make points of, saying spend money one way or the other. I mean, that's why they're Vegas and they make their money. I do think that Vegas total for both teams is incorrect. I think we can stack the Braves up as one of the best stacks today. Chris Archer is a very bad pitcher lately. He has not been that great recently. He's one of those dudes that has those flashes, like every once in a while he'll have that start where he'll chain 2 starts together and you go like, oh, that Archer kid finally found it, and then he blows up, and then it's that's the end of season. And Chris Archer over the last couple weeks, 7.5 strikeouts per 9 with 6 walks per 9, giving up 2.25 home runs per 9. That's terrible. 1.58 whip is terrible. And then you have the 6.74 FIP, 5.26 xFIP, 5.63 Sierra. Chris Archer is just not a good pitcher, and this is a really fantastic Braves offense who have been hitting really well lately. I would be all over Swanson, Freeman, and Riley here. I have said before, I will not play Ozzie Albies unless they're facing a lefty, so he is off for me today. I would take McCann at 3,500 over some other catchers today. Markakis has been hot and cold, but I think you can take a chance on him at 3,700. And Acuna, although he's coming off of a cold streak, is underpriced for his talent and skill level, especially leading off at 4,400. So I think you could get a lot of really nice Braves bats here against Archer, because Archer is absolutely terrible. And I think that, again, if you want to play Wheeler, you can save 2,000 and have a similar upside to a similarly skilled pitcher with Fultonavich for 2,000 less. I mean, that's that's a slam dunk as far as I'm concerned. Moving on, we have the Rays and the Tigers. The Rays are opening with Ryan Stanek and then moving to Jalen Beeks, and the Tigers are playing or pitching Daniel Norris. So this is where it starts to get interesting, right? Because this is the only time that the Rays play a starter or the opener and the regular pitcher that are different hands. So what winds up happening sometimes, and we've seen this 3 times now by my memory over the course of the season, where the opposing team will play someone in the lineup in the 1, 2, or 3 slot that is a lefty, specifically designed to go against Ryan Stanek. And then when the next turn in the order comes around and they're going against Jalen Beeks, he gets replaced by a righty. Now, the Tigers aren't a very good team, and they're not very smart. So they did not do this. There's nothing you have to worry about. Goodrum, Beckham, and Castellanos are the top 3. Beckham lines up better for Beeks than he does for Stanek. So if anything, the Tigers are playing their lineup that is for batting against left-handed pitchers. So that is not as good for Beeks, but the Tigers are, as I've pointed out many times, the worst offense in the American League statistically. So Jalen Beeks at 7,600 may not have the upside or the innings that you're going to want to see, but he's still probably going to wind up getting the win, and he's still going to wind up probably putting up 20-something points. So while I don't like the upside that Beeks has as much as Fultonavich, I do really like Beeks today. I am not a big fan of this Tigers offense. The only hot hitter that they've really had lately, believe it or not, is Miggy Cabrera, the ancient one with the bad knees, and he's resting today for good reason. So, this is one of those times where I would not mind being over on Beeks. I think that he is in a very good spot, and I have played him a lot this year. I have played the what's it called? The next pitcher, not the opener, but the starting. I'm going to just call them the starting pitchers for now on. There's an opener and then there's a starter. The starting pitcher for Tampa Bay several times this year, and even on fantastic days against bad teams, the ownership for them is a fraction of what it would be if the pitchers were just starting from inning 1. So I think that you're going to get a good pitcher with a decent upside, not as high as a pitcher that's could get a complete game shutout, obviously, and that's taken off the table when Jalen Beeks is pitching or any other starting pitcher after an opener. But again, the Tigers are a woeful offense. They're missing the best hitter in the lineup. Ronnie Rodriguez has been terrible. Doel Lugo is not a good hitter. Granier is a bad hitter. Jacoby Jones was hot for like a week and a half, and he's cooling off, and he will be, someone that bats you 100 for the next month. And then Kristen Stewart, who got moved from the 2 to the 5 hole, lines up very poorly against Jalen Beeks. So again, this is a Detroit I have no faith in. So give me some Jalen Beeks today. On the other side, we have Daniel Norris. Daniel Norris also has been in very bad form, much like Chris Archer. Not a lot of strikeouts, a lot of walks, 2.45 home runs per 9, 1.5 whip, 6.16 FIP. The XFIP and the Sierra are right at 5. So we have someone going against a very good and underrated Tampa Bay team that is going to get smashed today. If you're playing 150 and it's a 7 game slate, I would have at least 1 or 2 lineups with all 14 pitchers. You're playing 150 lineups. There are certainly enough lineups for you to expose yourself to every. Ooh, that sounds really bad. Don't do that. Don't do that. No. To have exposure to everybody. That's a better way of wording it. But if you're playing, even 20 lineups, 50 lineups, I would have almost no Daniel Norris. I would try to not have any Daniel Norris. He's one of the worst pitchers on the day, which means the Tampa Bay Rays are going to be one of the better offenses on the day. They are also hot hitting, and the lineup that they put together of righties against a lefty is really, really something. Yandy Diaz is back, and while he hasn't been hitting well, this is a pretty good get-right spot for him. Tommy Pham is a fantastic hitter against lefties, and he's been hot lately. Austin Meadows, again, while I don't have official splits numbers on him because he's a rookie with a small sample size, I will tell you that I've watched enough to know that Austin Meadows gets a fuckload of points against lefties and righties. I don't know if it's going to be reverse splits or no splits or what have you when I do the update at the All-Star break, but I will tell you that Austin Meadows should not be avoided simply because a lefty is on the mound. If anything, people who play Rays stacks are going to avoid him because of the 5,900 price tag and because of the lefty on lefty matchup. People don't understand splits as well as they should, and they automatically assume that every lefty is weak against lefties. So Austin Meadows is going to go under-owned, and I wouldn't be surprised if he puts up the most points in this lineup. And then you have Avisail Garcia and Christian Arroyo, 4 and 6, who have also been hitting hot lately. If you're going to go for a cheap catcher, Darno at 2,900, while not fantastic, has been swinging the bat about as good as a catcher in the 2,000 price range can. So while I don't love him and while I'd rather pay up a little bit more at catcher today, Darno, especially if you're doing a Tampa Bay stack, is a fine fifth to add on there. Pardon me. The other good news, I've been trying, even though I've been, I'm sedentary because of the injury. I do my doctor appointment with her every 3 months, and I lost about 15 pounds in the last 3 months. I've been doing a lot better, and even though I have that soda there for my throat, I'm doing a good job. I'm proud of myself. Got to keep it going, right? Every like I said, every day's a choice. Everything that you do is a choice. You just got to make the right choices, and sometimes the choice is to be happy and make yourself a better person, and that's a choice. It's not an easy choice, but the easy choices aren't the rewarding choices, are they? Thank you, Jake. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's work. You put the work in, you eat better, you drink better, you do things a little better. Even if it's just a little bit better every day, it adds up. Yeah, it's not, but I'm going to make an analogy here, and pardon me because this is only going to cost me time. But I have friends that smoke cigarettes like 2 packs a day, or they used to anyway. I don't know if they do anymore. It's been over a decade since I've been back in New York with them, but they used to smoke like 2 packs a day, and they used to lament like, man, I tried to quit. I wanted to quit cold turkey and I couldn't quit. And I said, hey man, like it's not a black and white thing, right? Like, let's say, for the next 2 weeks, like let's say you have a cigarette every 30 minutes, right, in your day. Let's say that, at 4 o'clock every day at 4 o'clock, you don't have your 4 o'clock cigarette. You still have every other cigarette in the day, but that one time you don't have it. After a week, you don't even realize it. Then, a couple weeks later, after a couple weeks, after you get used to it, you get rid of like the 1030 cigarette. Like you strategically work one out until it gets easier to eliminate, because it's not black and white. Every little bit helps. So if you do one thing a little bit better for yourself every day, you're going to be a better person for it in the long run. And it might not pay immediate dividends, but that's the problem, that a lot of people need like immediate gratification, and they don't understand that, life is long. Life is long. It takes a while sometimes. Yeah, I can understand. Erosh, I've heard friends that went to the vape, the Juul and whatever those things are, and it really helped them get off cigarettes. And then, now they have to get off that, but it's the same deal. Like if you notice, like you have one before and after a meal, then, you don't have one before lunch, right? Or you don't have some before lunch. Like it's just strategically eliminating it because people are addicted not only to the thing but to the habit, right? Like, oh boy, Jeopardy's on, it's time for me to have my cigarette. Like, even if you don't want it, sometimes you hear the song and you're like, oh, that's my cue to have a cigarette. And you can work to, slowly disable those cues to yourself. And it takes work, but it's a slow process and it's going to pay off. And that's the thing that I'm trying to do with weight, right? Like, I already don't eat very much, but I'm trying to eat more because it's one of those weird things. Like, I'll eat once a day, very, very late at night, because I force myself. I'm not really hungry all the time, which is a very weird thing for someone that looks like me. But it's very unhealthy to do that. So I've talked to like nutritionists and other people, and they've said, try to keep the metabolism going by eating like little things throughout the day. So, I went on Amazon, I got like $75 of Cliff Bars, and I'll have like one of those every couple of hours, and it keeps me going, and I'm not hungry, and it's been working out. And that one little thing, has helped leaps and bounds already in terms of getting everything back into place. So again, I'm here for baseball, but me, you guys have been with me for a long time. That I am about, it's not just baseball, right? I'm here to share everything with you, good and bad, lessons and not. Everything in life is something that you can learn from. And even if it doesn't help you in DFS, if it helps you in life, I'm happy. Everything can, you can take everything back to DFS eventually, because, it's going to be a part of our lives, but we need to be happy in our lives and fulfilled in our lives as well. And, even if I could do that 0.001%, a little bit better, I'm happy. So I love you all. And I do mean that. And, I'm here to help. If you ever need to talk, if you ever need that encouragement, I will be your biggest cheerleader. Send me a message, send me an email. If you're having a bad time getting through and having the willpower, I'll be your willpower. I got you. I got all of you. Just let me know. I'm here. I really mean it. I really mean it. All the love that you guys have shown me in the hard times, believe me, I couldn't ever repay it enough. So let's get back to it, because I really only have 2 hours of sleep and I'm in so much pain. Red Sox, the Royals. This is a hitting game for me. Ryan Weber is a decent pitcher, but he's not great. And Danny Duffy is a decent pitcher, but not great. The main problem for Duffy is that he's a lefty going against the Red Sox. If this were another team, I would probably have a lot of interest in Duffy. He's someone who's pretty crafty, has decent strikeout upside, but he's one of those guys that, you can't use them against certain teams. And the Red Sox, who don't strike out and who murder lefties, are absolutely one of them. So, I would add the Red Sox. Hey, Skixel, I am talking about like drafts and FanDuel baseball plays for the day. So I go over basically like all the pitchers and the hitters and analyze if they're good pricing, if they have good splits matchups. Hey, DJ, how you doing today? I talk about a lot of the advanced statistics that people don't have time to go and look up or may not know where to put them all together. I do all the research and then I try to pass it on to people so they can help make up their minds, with whatever other resources that they use throughout the day. So I hope that answered your question. Skixel, that's a fun thing to say. Skixel, difficult, but almost as fun to say as Fultonavich. So yeah, the Red Sox would be one of my favorite stacks of the day. I'd put them slightly above Atlanta if we are talking so far, which would put the Mets down at third. But, Betts, Bogarts, Martinez, and Vasquez have all been very, very hot lately. The only Red Sox hitter who's been cold, even over the last 2 weeks, is Michael Chavez. They found the hole. I don't know what that means. What is a litchi? Maybe someone can explain that to me. So, those right-hand hitters that already mash lefties are enough that I'm going to go pretty heavy on Red Sox if I can today. Again, Betts, Bogarts, Martinez, Vasquez are the prime choices. And then you could get, an Eduardo Nunez. 3,500 on DraftKings isn't bad. 2,300 on FanDuel is a fantastic price for Nunez, especially against Danny Duffy in this lineup. On the other side, I think that you can get, so the only really terrible Royals hitter over the last week has been Nicky Lopez, and the Royals responded by moving him out of the 1 hole and down to the seventh slot. So they're back to the Merrifield, Mondesi, Gordon, Soler, O'Hearn, and now Cuthbert, 1 through 6, and all those are pretty decent hitters. They're not fantastic, believe me. One's going to say the Royals are one of the best offenses in baseball unless they're a Royals fan. But they are very good hitters, especially Cuthbert, who is an underrated hitter with the Braves and is now showing just how good he is with the Royals. So I think that people are going to overvalue the win here, and Ryan Weber is going to get far too much ownership. But I am going to assert it's the leading edge in a triple. I'm going to assume that that is some kind of spam and that people shouldn't go there, but I don't know any better. So I don't know if I should like ban this guy. Hello. So yeah, I don't know, Skixel. I don't know what that means. Maybe you can explain it. Okay. Thank you, Erush. Okay. Wah. I don't know how to ban. So let's see. If I do the ban, no, could one of them message delete? Okay, so I got rid of all the messages at least. Thank you, Erush. Yeah, you guys know I've never done this. Like, I've been doing this for a very short amount of time. I have no experience with this. So if you see something like that, let me know, because I don't know. I don't know any better. You know, I'm just a friendly guy trying to help people. So anyway, the Royals offense against Ryan Weber is going to go unowned or underowned, and Merrifield, Gordon, Soler, O'Hearn, and Cuthbert, especially Cuthbert, 3,700 on DraftKings, 2,500 on FanDuel, I think is absolutely fantastic. So I think that they are one of the sneakiest stacks today. I would put them in league with the Mets in terms of an offense with a good ceiling today. That's going to go underrepresented. Let's move on to the next game, which is the Reds and the Cardinals. The Reds are going against Dakota Hudson, who you cannot play because he doesn't strike anybody out, but he is pretty much just a ground ball pitcher. So, he doesn't give up home runs. He doesn't have the greatest control, but he's not someone that it's good to stack against because when he gives things up, it is generally in drips and drabs. And that's, not a way to build a stack on a bigger slate, a 7-gamer. If you have 3 games, maybe for the 6,200. Thank you, Erush. You too. But there's no way, like ever, you can play Dakota Hudson. On the other side, though, DeSclafani has been absolutely terrible lately. Yesterday, the Cardinals are one of my favorite stacks with a 15-gamer. Today, the Cardinals are my favorite stack overall. I would rather play the Cardinals against DeSclafani than the Red Sox, than the Braves, than anybody else. They are going to go completely unowned today, and DeSclafani really has been pitching that terribly. 4.82 strikeouts per 9, meaning he's not striking anybody out. 3.86 home runs per 9. That is just about as bad as it gets. 8.9. I could go on for like an hour talking about how bad he's been lately, but this is going to be a Cardinals team that is going to go underowned because people are going to be, all over the Red Sox and a couple of other places. But the Cardinals, especially, I would say avoid DeYoung. Because DeYoung, as I said yesterday when talking about this game, DeYoung has been incredibly cold lately to the point where I'm not expecting him to heat up. So I really don't know when that's going to happen. You can take the chance, but I would, there's enough bats here. I would rather play Carpenter, Goldschmidt, Ozuna, Fowler, Waiters. That's 5 guys right there. You can get Wong in, although he's been cold enough that I'm not super interested. But he lines up really well against DeSclafani as well. And, Wong isn't batting 8th anymore. He's batting 6th. So, him at that price is better for the money than you were getting. So This is a Cards offense that, apart from DeYoung, who I'm leaving until he starts to show signs of life, I'm pretty much going to take. Oh, and Bader. I'm not playing Bader, but I'm going to pretty much play everybody else in this Cardinals lineup as a priority on this slate, and then try to fit in, those other bats that I like so much. Next up is the Marlins and the Brewers. Oh, I didn't change that. They kept changing it back and forth. The Marlins are starting Caleb Smith, who is a fantastic pitcher who's been pitching poorly lately. Because of that, I'm going to avoid him, but I'm also going to avoid the Brewers. If this were GPP, if you were doing multi-entry into GPP, as I often talk about, I would definitely have some exposure to both Caleb Smith and the Brewers, because again, Caleb Smith is fantastic and has wonderful ceiling, but he's also been getting his shit rocked lately. So while I don't have faith that either of those is going to happen, I have more of a faith that it's going to come down somewhere in the middle, and that neither the Smith play nor the Brewers stack is going to win someone a tournament. I do think that if you're playing 150, I would definitely have some exposure to both. But for me, I'm playing one lineup today, so I'm basically going to avoid these dudes. The one person I want to note is that Yasmani Grandal is out for the Brewers. So Hernan Perez has moved into the cleanup slot. He is second base and third base eligibility on DraftKings at 3,800, and he is third base on FanDuel for only 2,200. So you can have a cleanup hitter who's been hitting well lately against a good pitcher, albeit that's been pitching lately in the cleanup spot. For that cheap, that sounds really fantastic to me. But that's it. I'm really going to avoid that game, and that's one of those like one-offs that you can play if the money works out, or if you really need some cheap bats, especially on FanDuel. Let's see, is the Rockies lineup out yet? Still no Rockies lineup. So let's hope that's out by the time I'm done. We have the Rockies and the Cubs as the last game on this big morning slate here. We have Quintana versus Peter Lambert. So this is the play that I was talking about. I've said it before, and I will admit it every single time because it's good for you to know. I am a sucker for a good prospect coming up. I love it. And they are generally underpriced. Now, you have the top Rockies prospect who is priced as if he's pitching in Coors Field, pitching at a Wrigley Field with the wind blowing in at almost 10 miles an hour, which is going to suppress home runs. Granted, as Kevin Roth pointed out today, if you check his weather update every morning, like I try to do, they scored like 17 runs yesterday or something with the wind blowing in. So it doesn't stop the offense as a whole, but they only hit one home run. So it does really limit the amount of home runs that are hit when the wind is blowing in. I've said it a lot of times. I'll keep saying it. Wrigley is a wind field. It is very affected by the wind. So a 10-mile-an-hour wind blowing in is good enough that Lambert, as the top pitching prospect in the Rockies system, with decent strikeout stuff, at only 6,300 on DraftKings and 5,500 on FanDuel, is someone that I am absolutely going to take a chance on today. I know the Cubs are good. I know the Cubs are hot. But this is me and my GPP taking the risk of someone with fantastic upside. I could understand if he was coming into Coors Field again. He's priced like 6,300 and 5,500, like he was getting his major league debut in Coors. But he's not. He's pitching in Wrigley with the wind blowing in. So, yeah, give me him and his strikeout upside over the Cubs today, especially on a GPP. On top of that, the Cubs are resting a few people. Bote at 6, Almora Jr. at 7, and Descalso at 8 have all been on the bench lately due to recent form. Addison Russell's out. They're resting. Excuse me. Hayward. They're resting a few of their main bats today. So on top of liking Lambert's stuff, liking his pedigree, liking the wind conditions and the environment in Wrigley Field today, the Cubs, while the top 5 are the same and fantastic, the bottom 4, Bote, Almora, Descalso, and the pitcher can be had by Lambert. So again, it's risky. Hey, HDFC, how you doing? Lambert is risky. I'm not saying he's not, But if you want to take that risk, I'm right there with you. He is one of the pitchers I'm pitching today. Running away, 6,300 is just far too cheap for someone that can get you 25 DKP today. If he can get you 4 times, that's a lot more than any other pitcher is going to get you today. On the other side, we have Jose Quintana. So again, with the wind blowing in, I like Quintana more because he has been prone to giving up the home run this season. If you look at, where is he at here? If you look at his last couple weeks, he has not been pitching that well. 7.71 strikeouts per 9, about a 2 walks per 9, 1 home run per 9. Not terrible. None of those are terrible. But 1.93 whip. The XFIP and the Sierra and all those aren't as bad. They show that he's been getting unlucky, as does the 455 BABIP. But he is someone who just hasn't looked right this year. He has not looked great this year. And if you don't believe in eye tests, the advanced stats completely back it up. If you want to dig in to Quintana, he doesn't look the same as he has in previous years. And as I've said many, many times, this is a Rockies lineup that, even if you don't want to stack them, if they are going against a lefty, wherever they are going against a lefty, whatever lefty they are going against, Story and Arenado should be considered almost locks for you. Not locks necessarily in terms of making it onto your roster, but they should be in consideration. Again, anytime the Rockies are facing a lefty. With the wind blowing in even, I wouldn't be surprised if they both hit homers. I wouldn't predict it, but they are really that powerful against lefties. So, I don't like Quintana. I understand taking the chance, but I've already talked about several pitchers in the price range or cheaper that I like more with enough upside to dwarf Quintana's. I'd rather just pay an extra $1,000 and go to Fultonavich, honestly. But there's a lot of decent pitchers today. Beeks is only 100 more than him. Fultonavich is only 1,000 more than him. Who else was there? Oh, I didn't talk about Freddie Peralta. Freddie Peralta is not a bad pitcher either, and he's only 7,000. I don't expect him to be stretched out as, but I want it to be the Blues, but I think it's going to be the Bruins. I just think the Bruins are a better team when all is said and done. I just think they have the better pieces to put it together. But man, I really do like the Blues. Pietrangelo is really underrated. Tarasenko is one of the best players in hockey. I really like the Blues. I really want them to win. I just don't think it's in the cards. Astros and Mariners is next. This is not on any DraftKings slate, but it is on FanDuel. So I'm just going to talk about it really quickly. Justin Verlander is pitching for the Astros, which means you have a free play there. He is one of the best pitchers in baseball. You can play him anytime he pitches. On the other side, you have Tommy Malone, who is one of the worst pitchers in baseball, but has been pitching incredibly well lately. I think that would change today against a hot-hitting Astros team. But I've said that every time he's pitched, both time or 2 or 3 times he's pitched so far, and he's still maintained his decentness. Not blowing you away, but decent enough. So if I were playing this on FanDuel, I would have no problem playing Verlander. I would have no problem taking the Houston Bats in a GPP. But other than that, I'm probably just going to wind up avoiding it. All right. Next up, we're moving to the night slate. We got the Yankees and the Blue Jays. This one is great because we're starting off here with the best stack of the day. Edwin Jackson was really hoping that John Neese had gotten called up the other day to pitch for Seattle, because then John Neese would have taken over the reins of worst pitcher in baseball, like overall worst pitcher in baseball. He's not like in the tier. I mean, he's in the tier of the worst pitchers in baseball. But Edwin Jackson is functionally the worst pitcher in baseball right now. So give me all the Yankees. They have a 5.9 projected run total tonight with Vegas, and I would go over that I don't think that's, I mean, the way they've been hitting on top of how bad Edwin Jackson is, give me all the Yankees tonight. I would do what I could to try to get 5 of them in. They are not as expensive as they should be, nearly as expensive as they should be. Every single one of the Yankees should be over 5,000, and I mean that. Every single one of them at the top of the lineup, 1 through 7. Well, not Kendrys Morales, 1 through 7, except for Kendrys Morales. They should all be 5,000 or over. And we have LeMahieu at 4,400, Hicks at 4,100, Voit at 4,900. Sanchez is priced correctly at 5,500. Gleyber Torres 4,600, and Frazier at 4,500. So they're not, super cheap. It's not like you're going to get them for an average of 3,000 per player, but they are significantly underpriced for their potential in general, much less in this game against, again, an Edwin Jackson that is the worst pitcher in baseball. My strategy today, again, for the late slate, fit in as many Yankees as I can. On the other side, we have J.A. Happ. I've talked about him in the past. He's in the old pitcher tier. The old pitcher tier with like Adam Wainwright. I've talked about this before. Once you get to a certain age and you start falling off that cliff in slow motion, you don't pitch well anymore, right? But every once in a while, you wake up and you feel like a 25-year-old kid again. And you come to the park and you pitch like you were a 25-year-old kid again. And that's, then 2 months later, it happens again. But for the rest of the time, you're pitching like a 38-year-old person trying to get by who hurts like hell and who's having a really hard time keeping it going. And J.A. Happ is pitching like that. Every once in a while, he'll have one of those starts where, man, he looks like the old J.A. Happ. But for the most part, he's accurate 800 on DraftKings and incredibly overpriced at 8,600 on FanDuel. I can understand wanting to take the chance on in GPPs on DraftKings because he will let you fit in other bats, and he's going to almost assuredly get the win today. But I really just don't like him. I just don't think it's a good play to take a chance on a 38-year-old who's been pitching like a 38-year-old. If you want to take 150 lineups worth of shots, get a couple of J.A. Happ. This is a 5-game slate, so you're going to need exposure to everybody. But he is most certainly not one of my favorite plays today, and I would be avoiding him in one lineup, even maybe 3-5 lineups. Moving on, fourth to last game is the Twins at the Indians. We have Jose Barrios going against Trevor. Trevor Bauer, pitcher of the day on DraftKings, 9,400. He should be 11,000 every time. He had gone through a really rough stretch for a couple of weeks there, but he has looked much better recently. To go into the advanced stats, 11.1 strikeouts per 9, 0.69 home runs per 9, 1.15 whip, 2.85 FIP. Trevor Bauer looks like he's rounding back into form. He's getting his strikeout stuff back. He's getting his control back. The last time I talked about him on the video, I think his walks per 9 was like 6 for the 2-week stretch, and now it's 1.5. So, Trevor Bauer, a guy who can get 15 strikeouts a game. I know the Twins are tough, but Trevor Bauer is one of the smartest and hardest working pitchers in baseball. He understands the analytics, he understands the advanced stats, and he understands, like a Greinke Maddox, how to cater his game to the lineup that he's going against. So I will be avoiding the Twins today, as well as they've been doing, as great an offense as they are, and trying to overload on Bauer, because 9,400 for someone that could easily, sleep you to 30 DKP today is just too cheap. And then on the other side, we are seeing an Indians team that's been getting hot lately, but they've been getting hot because they've been facing some pretty bad lefties. And this is an Indians team that will do much better against lefties. I talked about it the last couple of days. Lindor is a switch hitter, much better against lefties. That's why I played him the last couple of days, and he hit me, 3 home runs and got 60-something DKP over the last couple of days. Today he's going against a tougher righty. I think he's going to be, him and the Indians are going to be under-owned considering that. I know Berrios has absolutely abysmal home and away splits. He pitches much, much worse outside of Minneapolis, uh, and they are on the Cleveland. So that should give you some cause for concern. And for that reason, I would rather play Bauer on DraftKings, where you get, a $300 discount. Berrios is 9,700 and Bauer is 9,400. But on FanDuel, where Bauer is 10,400 and Berrios is 9,300, I think you can take that chance there, because I do think that he will be underowned and the Indians will be overowned, given their recent form. But they are much weaker against righties, and Berrios is really a fantastic pitcher who has been pitching well lately. So, granted, again, worse on the road. Still going to take that chance that he does okay today. Next up is the Baltimore Orioles at the Texas Rangers. David Hess just sent Edwin Jackson a candygram thanking him for letting him not be the worst pitcher on the slate today. He is the second worst pitcher on the slate today. The Texas Rangers, therefore, are the second best stack on the slate today. I would still rather load up with Yankees, but you really cannot go wrong here. Chu is expensive at 5,500, but he's been on fire. Mazzara's doing well. Pence has looked really good lately. Odor's looked bad but has upside. Guzman has looked bad but has upside. They have a whole bunch of really good left-handed bats, and Hess has let up so many home runs this year that I don't even have words to describe how ridiculous the amount of home runs David Hess has given up has been. So if you're playing like home run challenge, get some Rangers in there, get some Yankees in there. If you're doing stacking, get some Yankees in there, get some Rangers in there. They're going to hit you a lot of home runs. They're going to score you a lot of runs today. On the other side, we have Ariel Jurado, who is not as bad a pitcher as people think. His price last time he pitched was like 4,800, and he more than paid up for it. Now his price has gone up to 6,400, and I still think that's too cheap. I don't think he's like a cash game play. I don't think that he's a safe play, but I do think that he has some upside, and I think that he's going to go completely unowned. And while I don't expect him, to get that complete game shutout, I don't expect him, to get 30, 40 DKP at 6,400. For him to get 3X, he wouldn't even need 20. All right. There are really weird people on YouTube. You know that? There are weird people. All right. So, yeah, give me the Yankees, give me the Rangers. I like Ariel Jurado. I think that playing him at 6,400, you have the upside, and it'll let you get those stacks in that you want to get in. And I think that's going to be incredibly valuable today. So, again, it comes with the risk. It comes with a huge risk. But I think Jurado is a decent enough cheap play given the upside. Next game, we have the A's and the Angels. It's Mike Fiers, which means that he can either get you negative points or a no-hitter today. So, plan accordingly. It's a GPP. If you want to play him, have some exposure. Otherwise, stay the hell away, because Mike Trout could hit 2 home runs off of him. And I'll point that out in a second. You know what? I'll point it out now. Mike Fiers is terrible. I've talked in the past in multiple occasions about how if you are a reverse splits hitter, the best thing for you would be to go against a reverse splits pitcher of the same handedness. So in this case, Mike Trout is a righty that hits righties better. Granted, he hits everyone well, but he hits righties better than he hits lefties. And Fiers is a righty who's worse against righties, which means that this is a ding spot for Mike Trout and David Fletcher, who's also a reverse splits righty. So as much as I like the Yankees, as much as I like Texas, I think that the Angels are going to be the sneaky stack today. Granted, Mike Trout's ownership is never going to be that low. But given the matchup again, anytime Mike Trout is taking on a reverse splits righty, you need to lock him into your lineup. One off, whatever. If you're going to build a stack around him, get David Fletcher in there, but you need to play Mike Trout anytime he's going against a reverse splits righty, and he is today. So again, it's going to be expensive. It's going to be tough. You're going to have to make some sacrifices somewhere, but it is possible to get some good pitching, get some Yankees, get some Rangers, and get Mike Trout in there and still have a functional lineup. And we'll see that, especially if Jeff Mathis plays for Texas, he's always like 2,000. On the other side, we have Tyler Skaggs, who I like a lot as a pitcher. He's been in good form recently, but 8,700 is just too much when I could just go up slightly for extra upside from other pitchers, especially against an Oakland A's team that is very, I want to say very underrated against lefties. I don't think people understand just how dangerous the A's are against lefties. You and me might, we pay attention to baseball and that kind of stuff, but I don't think that a lot of people understand that, if a lefty going against the A's is not a good spot for a lefty. So while I don't like the A's stack as much as others, given that I do think Skaggs is a good pitcher and a crafty lefty, if you are going GPP and you're playing a lot of lineups, I would definitely have some exposure to the A's because I do think that they are a decent enough GPP play if you can get there or if you want to get there. And then the last game before I go to sleep, or try to go to sleep, and then wake up and do 11 more hours of projection work to get the projections out for paid members for tomorrow. And again, if you are a paid member, I apologize that there's no projections today. We will make it up to you. I promise you, for that and for the days that my back doesn't work. We will make it up to all of you. I promise you from the bottom of my heart. You stick with us and it'll pay off and then some. We have a lot of exciting things coming up, and it's going to be a whole new crazy experience. We're gonna blow you guys out of the water. We're gonna have Bathrobe Sports completely redesigned and completely raring to go by football season. And we're gonna do a whole lot of stuff. Believe me, it's gonna be fantastic. I cannot wait to show you everything that we're gonna be working on. So it's going to be exciting. So if you get in now, it's going to be better. But if you are already a member, I will make today up to you, and hopefully I won't have to make tomorrow up to you as well. The last game is the Nats at the Padres. This is a pitching game for me. I like Corbin a lot. 10-3 is pretty expensive when I can get Trevor Bauer, for like 1,000 cheaper, who has, I would consider, more upside than Corbin any given day. So, if you're doing GPP, I'd still rather have Bauer. I'd still rather have Berrios for the savings because I do want those bats so much. But again, spread it around, get some Bauer in there if you're playing multiple lineups because Corbin, get some Corbin in there if you're playing multiple lineups because, again, the whole point of playing multiple lineups is to increase the amount of players you have exposure to. So trying to, pick two pitchers and then spreading it out amongst those may work for you on some days, but will destroy you on others. And in the long run will stop you or reduce the chances of you winning a tournament because you want to, change, you want to get some pitchers in that no one's going to have exposure to, even if they have high upside and even if they are popular. And Corbin, being that much more expensive than Bauer and Berrios, I think is someone who shouldn't be. And I'm not going to be all over him in a one lineup play, but if, there's absolutely a chance that he gets, a complete game shutout again and 45 DKP and blows every other pitcher out the water, and he's the reason that you win the tournament when you play your 20 lineups because you had, 4 lineups with Patrick Corbin in it. So, that's what I'm saying about him. I'm not taking Padres bats. They have been hot lately, especially Reyes and Renfroe. I wouldn't mind taking them as one-offs on a 5-game slate, even if you are pitching Corbin. But that's a little more inside baseball, and that's a lot more risk than a lot of people will take. 5 games is generally more than people want to play a batter against a hitter. And then on the other side, we have Joey Lucchesi. who has been in good form as well lately. 11.1 strikeouts per nine, 0.54 WHIP, 2.77 ERA, backed up, 3.67 xFIP, 3.00 Sierra. He's going against a Nats team that has been in very good form lately, but is prone to the strikeout. The one thing I'll say is, I like him, but he's 9,000, right? He's 9,000 on DraftKings, 8,200 on FanDuel, much better. He's 9,000 on DraftKings. Trevor Bauer has double his upside for 400 more. Berrios has 1.5 times his upside for 700 more. As much as I like Lucchesi, he would be in the Patrick Corbin camp. He's someone that if you're playing a lot of lineups, I would make sure you have some exposure to, because there's a good chance that he's a fantastic pitcher that goes under the radar because of Bauer and Berrios. But if you're only doing the one lineup, and you want to make sure that you're not adding to your any necessary risk, then I would try again to get a Bauer or a Berrios, and then maybe like a Gerardo or even a Lucchesi if you really want to do it. But then you're not going to be able to get the bats in. So it's going to be a question today, how you're going to do it. I told you how I'm going to do it, and I wish you the best of luck with how y'all decide to. So that's it for me. I need to go get some sleep and then get to work on getting projections up. So I love you all again. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm sorry that I'm like this today, but I'm doing my best. Again, beautiful day. Best of luck. I love you all, and thank you for joining me.